Welcome back, everybody, to another segment of the Educational AD Podcast. We'll be right back with today's guest, but as always, we're going to give a shout out to our sponsors. Now, don't hit that fast forward button. These are all great companies that I used as an athletic director. You should be using them too. So take a listen to our shout outs, then listen to our segment, and then visit each one of these sponsors. You're going to be glad you did. Here we go. We want to say thank you to Hometown Ticketing for their support of the podcast. Hometown's the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. I don't think I need to say anything more. Go to hometownticketing.com for more information. It's more support for you. Hometownticketing.com. We also want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and you can schedule a live web demo to see their scoreboards and their score tables in action. That's sidelineinteractive.com. We also want to say thanks to Huddle. Go to huddle.com, change the way you see the game. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years. But when I became an athletic director, I wanted to make sure the platform was going to work for all of our coaches, and our coaches, our kids, our parents just loved Huddle and all the things that they did to support our program. Go to huddle.com, join the 8 million users, turn your school into a Huddle school. We also want to say thank you to Gipper, the official social media graphics solution for the podcast. Go to Gipper.com. Their team will show you how to create world-class marketing content to promote your teams and celebrate your athletes. Gipper's used and trusted by over 4,000 high school and college programs across the country. It's professional graphic design made simple. Go to Gipper.com to get started. We also want to thank Home Campus. Home Campus is a platform that you will use every single day. Things like scheduling, student athlete eligibility and clearance. Who doesn't do that every day? Communicating with your coaches, your kids, your parents, your state association, uploading digital forms. Home Campus is going to do things faster, going to do things better, and it's going to make your job a lot easier. To get started, just go to homecampus.com. Mention the podcast. Go to homecampus.com. We want to say thanks to Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards or your school's Hall of Fame, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com and check out their interactive touchscreen. That's right, touchscreen video consoles. It's a great way to tell your school story, brag about your school, and share the success stories of all your student athletes. That's vitalsignswalloffame.com. Vitalsignswalloffame.com. We want to say thanks to our good friends at Snap Raise. Have you ever spent weeks and weeks on a fundraiser and then got little, if any, return on investment? Stop right here. Go to snapraise.com. Hands down, the best online fundraiser out there. We used it at our school with tremendous success. Our coaches loved it. Our parents loved it. It works. Go to snapraise.com. Check out their other great platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, you found it. Go to snapraise.com. You'll be glad you did. We also want to say thank you to Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. If you've never used a survey to connect with your parents, your student athletes, your coaches, you're really missing out. Athletic directors are already connected to one group, the group that wants to complain and gripe about everything. Well, athletic surveys will connect you to them, but it's also going to connect you to the 98% of your stakeholders who love and support your program. And that information is tremendously valuable when you're talking to that frustrated parent or your principal or even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create that custom survey. It's going to help you take your athletic program from good to great. Hey, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We're going all the way up to Wisconsin today, and it was a snowy day in Wisconsin. Our guest today is Jeff Dorschner. Jeff is a certified master athletic administrator. He's the director of athletics at Crivitz High School, and that's in the Crivitz School District in Wisconsin. Has a tremendous athletic background. We're excited to have him on the show. So, Jeff, welcome to the Education Lady podcast.
Thanks, Jake. Happy to be here.
Well, we connected recently. Thought you'd be a great guest. Appreciate you spending some time in your very busy schedule. Again, this was supposed to be the first day of baseball games. They got snowed out. We don't have that problem in Florida. We get rain though. But let's go ahead and get started. Jeff, we always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So give us that quick bio, where you were born, where you grew up. Maybe take us up through your own high school and college days, and then we'll take a break. But what's the Jeff Dorschner origin story?
Well, I was born and raised in Northeast Wisconsin, in a smaller town just outside of Appleton, Wisconsin, which is near Green Bay, and grew up about 45 minutes away from Lambeau Field on a farm. Youngest of five kids, and graduated from Hortonville High School in 2001. Was a three-sport athlete for 4 years, on top of doing farm chores and trying to be involved in every other student club in high school. Probably more or less just to get out of farm work with my old man. But then eventually I was able to get recruited to play baseball at Edgewood College in Madison, where I went down there to go for business education and came back a social studies teacher, and played 4 years of college baseball down there, and was fortunate enough to get a job in Crivitz. This is my 16th year as a full-time social studies teacher, and this is my 11th year as athletic director for the middle school and the high school. For a The high school size is about 200 students total. Another give or take 60 kids in the middle school, and been moved my family up here in 2016, and we like the small town feel of it. My graduating class in Hortonville was actually bigger than the enrollment of the high school that I work at, so it's a little bit different. But nonetheless, been fortunate for the opportunities I've had in athletics, and always enjoyed giving back, and was also fortunate to be a certified official in 4 different sports with our state association, in basketball in particular, the last 20 years. Was recently inducted to the Green Bay Officials Association Hall of Fame. Was the sub-varsity assigner for 11 area schools in the Green Bay for their basketball season. So all their JV1, JV2 girls and boys, about 500 to 600 games a year I would assign for them,
Wow.
in addition to working a full varsity schedule. And this past year, I was only supposed to work about 8 to 10 varsity games. I was going to take a step back. I have 3 kids, with my wife, who's also a kindergarten teacher here. She's in her first year teaching kindergarten. And my kids are getting older to the point where I enjoy coaching their sports. So I was going to take a step back. I still ended up working 16 varsity games on top of a number of sub varsity games that I fill in for here at our school. So it's busy, to say the least.
Thank you from the officiating standpoint. I retired as an AD a couple years ago, and then this year was my last year. I'm stepping down from doing high school basketball, which I've done for a number of years. I still do track and cross country at the high school and college level, but you mentioned something growing up, and there's a couple things I want to follow up with. Um, you know, you did sports in part to, not have to do chores on the farm. My dad was a contractor. My brothers and I, we all got to work for him weekends. I say got to weekends and summers. And I remember one, I think it was my junior year, it was that summer. And long story short, we were at the dinner table and I said, I don't know if I'm going to play football this year. And my dad goes, okay, we'll see you at the job site when you get out of school. It's no big surprise. I played football that year and the year after that. But for you growing up, you mentioned your school was bigger. Your graduating class is bigger than your current school. What was your school experience like? Was it, a big urban school? Was it a country school? What was that environment like? And you mentioned you were 3 sports, so you were there all the time.
Yeah, and our school was kind of transitioning from that urban or that rural farm community to more of an urban sprawl from the Appleton area. Right when I was graduating, now it's a Division I high school in our state. It's twice the size as it was when I was in school. It's blown up. That land values there have really increased. People want to move there. They built a lot of new schools in that district. So I was just kind of toward the tail end of the traditional farm community school setting. It was getting, this is 22 years, 23 years ago. And even back then, it was getting to the point I was the only male athlete in my graduating class to actually play all three sports for 4 years.
Wow.
So it was getting to the point where kids were starting to specialize. Three sports was getting to be a bit much. And a similar story with my old man, as you mentioned. I wasn't going to go out for basketball as a junior. And he said, "Well, that's fine, but then you're going to be up at 5 in the morning milking cows. And then as soon as you get done with school, you're going to be on the barn working until the chores are done at night." And I said, "Well, I guess I'm going out for basketball. Then that's a pretty easy decision." And he kept things real simple on my end. He didn't get an opportunity to play sports when he grew up on the farm. So I give him credit. He let his all five of us kids were heavily involved in sports in our high school experience. So I had good coaches, supportive coaches. Just the friendship, camaraderie was great. We weren't all that monstrously successful in all of our sports. Baseball was something that we kind of hung our hats on in our town and had some success there. But other than that, it was just the camaraderie, the bus rides, the friendships that you made. Just that was intoxicating. It was something that I knew I wanted to do later on in life in terms of coaching.
Oh, absolutely. I'm right there with you. The friends that you made, I'm in 2 years, I'm going to have my 50th high school reunion. Can't believe that. But I'm still very close with the 5 or 6 guys that we played sports with all those years ago. So very cool. It's all about the relationships. We're going to go and take our first break, but we're coming back with more. Our guest today is Jeff Dorschner. He's a certified master athletic administrator. He's the director of athletics at Crivitz High School. That's in Crivitz, Wisconsin. So let's take that break, but we're coming back with more. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to thank our good friends at Hometown Ticketing for their support of the podcast. Hometown's the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. It's digital ticketing that offers more support, more security, and more customization. Go to hometownticketing.com. Let their team help you make the best online ticketing solution. hometownticketing.com. We also want to say thank you to Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. You can schedule a live web demo to see their score tables and their score boards in action. Probably one of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Not only generates income for your athletic department, but it'll also create the ultimate game day experience for your student athletes. That's sidelineinteractive.com. Welcome back, everybody, to the Educational AD Podcast. Once again, our guest is Jeff Dorschner, Certified Master Athletic Administrator at Crivitz High School in Wisconsin. Jeff, I think many ADs, have a couple of stops. I know I certainly did before, we hit that long stretch as an AD. Sounds like you, landed at Crivitz almost out of the chute. What was that like coming in, as a young coach and then eventually the AD, and how, or what are some of the changes that you've seen in your 16 years there?
Well, the educational landscape has changed a lot since I first got out of the chutes out of college. And I went back to my hometown and was coaching three sports there, substitute teaching almost daily there. Was there mainly their building sub in that district for a couple of years, applied all over the place. A lot of these, I was in the social studies field, extremely competitive, probably like 500 to 600 applicants per job opening. And so it was tough. And Got passed over a couple times at my hometown, which was a little frustrating. But this job opened up late in early September. Another teacher moved to a neighboring district and happened to interview for that same job in that neighboring district. And the superintendent called me and said, "Listen, we have a guy that was experienced for 10, 12 years. He's going to take over our varsity girls basketball job, but where he's coming from, which was Crivitz, there was an opening, and the building principal asked if we had any applicants, and I gave him your name." And so, of all those grinds that I went through with the job interview process, I don't even recall filling an application out for this place. And so I got my start here, and they needed coaches immediately. And so I got involved as the varsity baseball coach right away, coach middle school basketball. I was here for about 5 years. And my principal, who was also the athletic director, he had a dual role, came into my room one day in May of 2012, I think it was, and said, "You're going to be the athletic director next year." And I said, "I suppose I don't have a say in this process, do I?" He goes, "Nope, you don't." So I took over as athletic director. I was going to Ohio University anyway to get my master's and so they just started that program at Ohio University. And so um, ended up taking over and found out in a hurry that teaching a full load of social studies classes and being athletic director was quite the challenge. But again, I kind of go back to my childhood days of working on the farm and instilling that work ethic. To me, this wasn't work. Of course, we were busy, but this is stuff that I certainly enjoyed. And found out in a hurry that this job doesn't just consist of scheduling officials and scheduling buses. And one thing I think that's fortunate that for whatever reason I latched onto was to get into the NIAAA LTI courses. Got to network that way. Got involved in our state association a little bit, and networked on top of that. And boy, found a lot of help along the way. Really had a good supportive group of athletic directors to guide me, and I wasn't afraid to try new things. Wasn't afraid to try the new technologies that came out. Wasn't afraid to go against the grain. We live in a pretty conservative town. People don't necessarily like change. I was never afraid of, I guess, not so much controversy, but maybe people not agreeing with you in a sense, and then realizing that and I was humble. If I made a mistake, I certainly owned up to it. But if it worked, people could see in a hurry that was best for kids. And you just kind of the job just kept getting added to the plate more and more with duties. And we've expanded our programs here. We've added a couple sports, added a couple clubs. But we're in a really good spot right now. And I think a big thing through the whole process is that I've had an extremely cooperative and supportive administration above me. Been very fortunate. 16 years ago, I thought this was a stepping stone job. I'm still here. So this is a place where people like to vacation in our state. And I got a good bit of advice a long time ago. You want to live where people vacation. And so it's a nice area. I'm happy to be here.
Well, that is just so cool to hear. The expression, you don't know what you don't know. We talk about young ADs or young coaches. You weren't a complete novice to the world of athletics when you became an AD, but was there anything about becoming an AD that kind of surprised you that first year or two that you were, as I like to say, sitting on the other side of the desk?
Well, I had a pretty challenging first year as we had a lawsuit at school over a code violation, and uh, learned a lot in that process. Learned a lot about policy and how the importance of dotting your I's and crossing your T's are in every single scenario. And certainly did a lot of growing up in that first year with that particular situation. And that just proves, the situation at hand. I'm not going to get into details of it necessarily, but um, I found out in a hurry, and anybody can get sued for any reason at any point in time. And that scares the heck out of a lot of people in this profession. And one thing that our state has been focusing on is to tell our story. I don't think a lot of you have a lot of turnover with administration, principals, superintendents in various districts across the country, and I don't think they exactly know the job that entails with an athletic director. And so that's kind of been a focus of our with our new ads, with our current ads across the state, is to tell your story, make sure people know what exactly it is that you do, and tell your story about your athletic department and celebrate successes. I think that's really important for any new AD starting out, especially in a smaller school setting.
We're going to do this at the end of the podcast, but speaking of telling your story, if one of our listeners wanted to reach out, pick your brain a little bit, or just add you to their network, what's the best way that they can get a hold of you?
Well, they can certainly just Google or go on crivitzwolverines.com, our athletic website, through our school page. Pretty easy to get a hold of. Email and phone number is usually out there. If you ever do a Google search of somebody, it's amazing what pops up. So I have a Twitter page. I have I guess X page you call it now. And so those are probably the easiest ways to get a hold of me, through my school email, which is posted on our website.
All right. Well, we'll get all that information and again share it at the end of the podcast. Once again, our guest today is Jeff Dorschner, Certified Master Athletic Administrator, and he's the AD at Crivitz High School, and that's in Crivitz, Wisconsin. We're taking a break, but we're coming back with more, so please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to our good friends at Huddle for their support. Go to huddle.com and change the way you see the game. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I wanted a platform that was going to work for all of our coaches and programs, and Huddle came through like a champ. Our coaches, our student athletes, our parents just loved everything that Huddle added to our athletic department to enhance their experience. At Huddle, we believe in sports and teams believe in Huddle. Join the 8 million users and turn your school into a Huddle school. We also want to say thanks to our friends at Gipper. Go to Gipper.com. Their staff is going to show you how to create world-class graphics to help promote your teams and celebrate your program's accomplishments. Gipper's used and trusted by over 4,000 high school and college teams across the country. It's professional graphic design made simple. Go to Gipper.com to get started. We also want to say thanks to Home Campus. Home Campus is a platform that you will use every single day. Things like scheduling, student athlete eligibility and clearance. Who doesn't do that every single day? Communicate with your coaches, your parents, your student athletes, your state association, uploading digital forms, you name it. Home Campus does it better, does it faster, and it makes your job a lot easier. To get started, all you have to do is go to homecampus.com. That's it. Go to homecampus.com.
I'll tell you what, Jake, we latched on to Gipper right when it came out. A relatively new idea. Not many schools around us got on Gipper, and immediately just bolstered our social media content and graphics designs, and parents absolutely loved it. So that's definitely one of the big go-to products that I would recommend any AD across the country.
You'd mentioned earlier the changing landscape of high school athletics, and I'm a little bit older than you, but I know when I was in school, I mean, if our local newspaper mentioned our name in a agate print score, we thought that was a big deal. But now, kids expect it, parents expect it, and a platform like Gipper, it's so easy to use. The tagline I use, it's so easy, even I can use it. So appreciate you sharing that. And you're absolutely right. I think the parents sometimes get a bigger kick out of it than the kids do, and the kids just love it. Okay. Jeff, you mentioned in the last segment that you got involved with your state association and the NIAAA leadership training programs. Take us on that journey because, again, I think sometimes a younger athletic director is going to see that CMAA after somebody's name and not really understand how and the why behind it. And that doesn't happen by accident. So take us on your journey with your state and the NIAAA.
Well, one of the draws of when I became an athletic director here in our state, we host a all-star state conference. It is hosted in Wisconsin Dells at the Kalahari Resorts, and our my district said we will give you, you know, we will let you go to that conference, and we will pay for it, and you go and provide professional development by state association. Was exposed to the LTI journey in the new AD workshop that our state association put on in the summer when I first started, and took my first LTI course. I believe it was 502, and just kind of the whole overview of what an athletic director is. And then I think after that we took 504, and that is, I think, on purpose designed to scare any new AD that comes into the field. That's your first law class, but I loved it, and just loved looking up that material, athletic related material, and from there took a little bit of an unconventional path. I took courses that interest me. I didn't necessarily pay attention to what's my path to be an RAA, what's my path to be a CAA, what's my path to be a CMAA. So I just took courses for the next 5 6 years of, this looks interesting, I'll take this, and just kind of added to that over the years. And then I finally looked at one of our state liaisons, LTI liaison coordinator, uh, pulled me aside and said, "Hey, you're pretty close on getting your CAA." And so then I started to investigate a little bit through the NIAAA, found out I was only a course or two away, and able to knock that out at our next conference. And, that became a CAA in 2018, I believe it was. From there, I was able to negotiate with my school board a pay increase with my AD stipend. If I obtained my CAA, I would get X amount. If I would obtain my CMAA, I would get, another bump in pay. So that they're kind of motivated me to keep going with it. And lo and behold, I ended up getting myself further involved in our state association, and I'm the assistant LTI coordinator in our state now. I assist our LTI coordinator, Jeff Behrens, out of Pewaukee. And so I get to go to the NIAAA offices every year in Indianapolis with the other state coordinators around the country, and really get to grow my network that way, see what other states do to motivate athletic directors to obtain those certifications, and getting more and more inquiries about that with our younger group of ADs that are coming into the state. We get pretty high turnover rate, like I'm assuming other states do. Of the 500 schools that are in our state, we get probably roughly 100 to 125 new ADs every year. And so we really try to get them on on that track. And we offer 502 for free at our state conference every year for those new ADs. We try to provide some first year attendee grants for them as well. And, I just really enjoyed being other ADs along the process as well, and obtaining their certification.
It's a great that's a great progression of, getting involved, getting the certification. And now, you're, as you mentioned, you're the coordinator for your state, helping other athletic directors get involved. And I love what your state does, offering that free course to kind of dangle the carrot in front of folks to get them to take those extra courses. Um, One question I get, and I was on the NIAAA certification committee for many, many years. I would review projects and other things, but we would hear that people, sometimes they're intimidated about doing that CMAA project. So I know our advice to people in that area. What was your advice to the ADs? What is your advice to ADs there in Wisconsin about trying to, figure out what their CMA project should be?
Well, first, even with the CAA test, I get a lot of times with the CAA exam, "Oh, I'm not a good test taker." Well, neither am I. I think when you're in education, you have to give the test. You haven't taken a test in a long time. So uh, we give you the review materials on the CAA exam. And I don't know how many times I've told ADs, "You'll be fine." And sure enough, they take it, they pass it. And I said, "I told you so." The CMAA project, mine was very simplistic. We did not have a coach's handbook in our district, and so I did some investigating. And um, being an athletic director and then being an educator are really kind of two at different ends of the spectrum when it comes to the word plagiarism. As a classroom teacher, you harp, you can't plagiarize. It's got to be your own work. As an athletic director, why reinvent the wheel, right? You steal whatever you can steal. And so, as you know, for my handbook, I took 4 different school districts and saw what I liked and saw what maybe I could pass on, create my own. We needed it anyway. And I submitted that as my CMA project. And a couple months later, I hear back that I'm all good to go. And so for me, probably a lot of things that you've either instituted at your school or improved upon at your school can qualify as your CMAA project. And really, it was a piece of cake on my end.
Well, that's why they call them best practices. You're absolutely right. And you coach too, you know this. As a coach, you're going to you'll share some things, but you're not going to give away everything at a coaching clinic because you don't want that coach to come back and beat you. But as an AD, we can't wait to give away everything, the keys to the house, the whole handbook, et cetera. And, just again, you're absolutely right. And for you ADs out there listening, if you're thinking about your CMAA, I guarantee you are already doing something at your school that would make a great CMA project. Maybe it's with kids or coaches. Maybe it's a handbook. Maybe it's something you've done with your facilities or a way you connect with parents. What are you doing right now? What are you passionate about? That's what your CMA project should be. So if you're in Wisconsin, reach out to Jeff. Okay. Every state has a certification and an LTI coordinator. Sometimes it's the same person, but reach out to them first. If you can't somehow get a hold of them, reach out to one of us. We would love to help you. Jeff, this has been really cool spending some time with you, but we're not done yet. We always wrap up with what we call the athletic director's toolbox. Now, you certainly know your way around the world of athletics. But we're going to take our final break, hear from Athletic Surveys and a couple other sponsors. And when we come back, I'm going to challenge you to send out a brand new athletic director on their very first job. But I'm only going to let you put 3 items in the toolbox. So let's take that final break. When we come back, we're going to find out what Jeff Dorschner is going to put in his new athletic director toolbox. We want to say thanks to our good friends at Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards or your school's Hall of Fame, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Check out their interactive touchscreen. That's right, touchscreen video consoles. It's also a great way to share your school's diverse history, talk about some of your proudest moments, and single out some of your finest students and student athletes. The website is vitalsignswalloffame.com. Mention the podcast, you'll get a nice discount. vitalsignswalloffame.com. We'd also like to thank Snap Raise. Have you ever spent weeks and weeks on a fundraiser and then got little, if any, return on investment? Stop right here. Go to snapraise.com. Hands down, the best online fundraiser out there. We used it at our school with tremendous success. Our coaches loved it. Our parents loved it. It works. Go to snapraise.com. You can check out their other great platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, stop. You found it. snapraise.com. And we want to thank Athletic Surveys by Life Track, particularly for sponsoring the AD Toolbox segment. Athletic directors are already getting feedback, but a lot of times that feedback is from one small group, the complainers, the people that want to gripe about everything. Athletic Surveys will connect you to that group, but they're also going to connect you to the 98% of your stakeholders that supports your program. And that's tremendously valuable information to have when you're meeting with that frustrated parent or student athlete, or maybe your principal, or even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of your parents and your student athletes. That's athleticsurveys.com. Well, it's that time of the podcast. We've been visiting today with Jeff Dorschner, a certified master athletic administrator and the director of athletics at Crivitz High School, and that's in Crivitz, Wisconsin. Uh, Tremendous athletic background, but right now I'm going to challenge him to send out a brand new AD on the very first job, but I'm only going to let him put 3 things in the toolbox. So, Jeff, what 3 items are going to go into your new athletic director toolbox?
Well, something I wish I would have done probably 11 years ago when I first started, and I just started doing this a little bit more extensively the last few years. When you have your athletic code meeting at the start of the year, I used to be kind of like the old grumpy dad up front and go over the policies and procedures and the penalties involved and get in the right group and hang around the right crowd, and actions have their consequences. In the last couple of years, I got this from Jeff Behrens from Pewaukee, who was our state liaison coordinator. I help him out with the NIAAA in our state of Wisconsin, and it was a presentation that had a little bit of the co-curricular code, but it was a presentation in clearly defining roles. Coaches have a role, athletes have a role, parents have a role, and all 3 pillars need to be standing for to have success. And boy, did that really make a difference. The expectations that we have with players and communication with coaches, the expectations that we put on parents in communicating with their son or daughter, and coaches as well. And then also in there, I have what the coaches' expectations are in terms of what we expect out of the athletic department, how to communicate with parents. And so it wasn't just all our way or the highway. It was a mutual kind of respectful presentation that we gave out and really set the tone for the year and in the fall sports season before the fall sports started. And a lot of our student athletes are multi-sport athletes. So we have this meeting once a year. But boy, oh boy, in terms of their expectations with officials at games and their conduct at games, we laid that all out there for parents. Our social media policy, not airing any dirty laundry over social media, which is common and can chase coaches away. All that stuff is clearly communicated at the start of the season. So I would recommend any first year AD set the tone with a meeting like that to start your year out, and make sure your coaches are on board with that. Another, I guess, tool to put in the toolbox is to make sure that you have a coach's handbook handy, and making sure your coaches know what the expectations are of the job are. In a small school setting, I have to put a lot on my coaches. They are responsible for things. The baseball and softball coaches are in charge of getting their fields ready themselves. We do not have the building and grounds maintenance crew to do that ourselves. Our girls and boys basketball coaches have to help set the gym up or take the gym, tear it down at the end of the night. Sure, putting the bleachers in and sweeping, but the chairs and score tables away. We do not have building personnel to do that. Custodians to do that at a smaller school. So just making sure that coaches are well aware of what their responsibilities are before going into a job. And then also too, to help you out, and there's a brand new course out that is taught by Mr. Scott out of Missouri. Fantastic course, 704. It is hiring, recruiting, mentoring, and firing coaches, a course. And coaching evals and keeping meticulous records of having coaching evals, having those sit down conversations with your coaches, whether informal observations, informal conversations, or formal conversations, and just being open and honest with them on the job that they're doing, some improvement that needs to be done. And that'll help you when you get pressure from the outside that a coach needs to get removed or a change has to be made, that you have some record anyway of, well, we're going to put them on an improvement plan first. We're not just because the set of parents don't like them, we're not going to circle them at the gates and force them out. You're dealing with people on a daily basis. And so having those policies in place, I've found out over the years are really going to be beneficial for you. And as an AD, again, you went back to the phrase, you don't know what you don't know. A lot of this is baptism by fire. Your first couple of years, you have a fire hose connected to your mouth, and you're taking in all this information. So this is stuff that you kind of pick up on over the years. And again, if I had that bit of information really emphasized to me in my early years, I'd probably have a few less problems along the way.
I'm chuckling because we've heard that, and I've said it myself. I wish we had this collection of tools when I was starting out. That's why we keep doing it. People seem to find them valuable. Um, you gave me two great ones, Jeff. You got a third one handy?
I do, and this is something that I'm passionate about. I love hosting events. Love hosting events. The game day operation, right? Again, you need help from your coaches from time to time with set up and tear down, but you get yourself reliable game workers, event staff, and don't be afraid to lobby for their pay. If you pay them, they're happy to be there. Some schools try to get volunteers. That's very difficult, but I have a great event staff that helps me out with our home games during the year. Communication is just absolutely key. Don't rely on if you have a scheduling, whatever scheduling system software you have that gives out the automated reminders to officials, game workers, the other team. Send that personalized email out. Hey, you're coming to our house on Friday night for a varsity football game. We're happy to have you. This is what's going on. Here's the timetable. At this time, the locker rooms will be open for the teams. The officials will arrive at this time. Everybody's involved on the email, on that communication, whatever it is. Being an official, I stress the importance for athletic directors that maybe never officiated. Host your officials as if you were, inviting them to your house.
Mhm.
We have a towel for them. We have some snacks for them. We have a mini fridge in there for cold beverages for them, legal beverages, and we are from Wisconsin, but water, Gatorade, right? Um, a lot of these guys are coming from their jobs, regular jobs, their vocations during the day, and they probably hadn't had anything to eat up until your game. So they appreciate that. Are you going to get a call? No, but you're going to at least get them in a good mood before they get on the field or the court for you, right? Um, Myself, I love getting on the mic and being a public address announcer. I've taught LTI 625 public address announcing a few times at our state convention. I love public address announcing. That's one of my dream jobs, is to be at our state tournaments announcing. So, and the game day experience, you have music or you have the band playing, you have the announcer there kind of running the show. It just provides a really fun atmosphere for the kids. And, just that part of it, I take a lot of pride in. And with my job is hosting events. I love hosting neutral site events for our state tournament at the sectional level. And put in all the time for our state, like to show off our facilities, and also brings in some revenue for local businesses. So then in turn, when we have to ask for maybe some financing from them, they realize that these events can generate income for them in our community. So it's just a great give and take relationship. And, I embrace that event hosting.
No, I'm right there with you. Well, I used to love to host events at our schools, and you're right. The event workers, your coaches, your tool about having the kids help with the breakdown. Now, even if you have that custodial staff, that's a great practice to get into to help the kids, participate and kind of see the value in service. Great stuff, Jeff. Um, Appreciate you spending time. I know it's incredibly busy there for you. One more time, if one of our listeners wants to reach out, pick your brain a little bit, or just add you to the network, what's the easiest way they can get a hold of you?
They can send me a message on my Twitter handle at Dorschner, or they can get a hold of me by email. Dorschner, D as in dog, ORSCHNER, at Crivitz, CRIVITZ, .K12.WI.US.
Well, Jeff, thanks again for sharing. All the best moving forward with the spring sports. And who knows, hopefully we can get you down here to Florida for an FIAAA conference in May sometime.
Yeah, that'd be great. Well, you guys are hosting nationals again. I was down in Orlando this past December, my very first NIAAA national conference. I was the first AD from our school ever to attend that. That was impressive, very impressive showcase by the folks in Florida and then in Tampa in 25. Right, we come
That's
back.
right. Yeah, we're in Austin this coming year, Austin in 24, and then 25, we're in Tampa. So we'll see you down there. Jeff, again,
Absolutely,
thanks so much for sharing. Keep doing all the great things that you're doing. And we'll have to get you back on the podcast.
appreciate it, Jake. A lot of fun today.
For our listeners, we appreciate you. And we do this just about every day, and we upload the Zoom recordings to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. Once again, thanks for listening. Come back next time for more best practices on the Educational AD Podcast.